Hi, and welcome to this Ignite webcast. My name is Josh Topal, and I'm a program manager for Office 365. And Ignite events are a series of technical workshops for IT professionals and Microsoft partners. And these Ignite webcasts will address different technical subjects and scenarios that are really beneficial to anyone that wants to increase their knowledge of the Office 365 suite. So today we're really excited to have Scott Schnoll leading our webcast. Scott is a principal technical writer on the Exchange user education team at Microsoft, and in today's webcast, Scott will be introducing us to the new Exchange server. Today's session provides a really great opportunity to hear directly from a Microsoft employee and learn more about the features and new releases of Office 365. So today's webcast will be about an hour, and we're going to leave a few minutes at the end to field any questions from anyone on the call. So you can go ahead and type your questions into the link chat box during today's presentation. We are recording today's session, so we'll have that slideshow presented and the video recording available on the original Ignite blog post. But one last thing that's really important is that since we are recording today's session, please understand that you may be captured and recorded in the recording. So if you do not wish to be recorded or captured, please do not type anything in the IM window, or just simply leave the meeting and you can watch it at a later time. So the place where you could find the blog post is right here, and that's where you can get the PPT and recording later. And that's it for me. So Scott, whenever you're ready, feel free.
Great. Thanks very much, Josh. And welcome, everybody, to an introduction to Exchange Server 2013. As Josh said, I'm Scott Schnoll. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a content developer in the Applications and Services group at Microsoft, and I write the product documentation for Exchange Server on-premises areas such as high availability, site resilience, disaster recovery, and a few others. I'm glad you could join me today as I discuss some of the architectural changes and some of the great new features in Exchange Server 2013. So as with previous versions, Exchange 2013 is designed to handle both current and future communication challenges and to take advantage of current and emerging hardware trends. So today, there's a ton of devices connecting to a variety of services. 10 years ago, connected workers had a PC, maybe a bulky laptop, maybe even a simple mobile phone. And many were still using dial-up internet. But today we have smartphones, IP phones, slates, tablets, laptops, desktops, netbooks, and people want to access to email from anywhere on any device. And the information explosion that's underway continues exponentially. In fact, in the next decade, mankind's data will increase by about 44 times, while the number of IT professionals will grow only by about 1.4 times. In fact, in the next year alone, there will be more data generated than in all of mankind's history put together. Now, according to IDC, as of May 2010, humans have generated about 1.2 zettabytes, or 1.2 billion terabytes, or 1.2 million petabytes, depending on how you like to measure your data, of information. And the rate at which we create information continues to accelerate. And they estimate that by the year 2020, the amount of data will have grown 44-fold to about 35 trillion gigabytes. And so what that means is workers need smarter ways to deal with information so that they can find what they need in the flood of data. And businesses need ways to protect that information. Now, some of that information is intellectual property, some of it is business critical data, some of it is personally identifiable information. Managing this is a challenging and complex task. And in fact, every year since maybe as early as 1995, has been deemed by some analyst or press figure to be this year of compliance. And the reality is that many organizations put it off or do only the minimum required by law or industry regulation. Organizations are left to figure out for themselves how to take this incredible quantity of information moving at unprecedented velocity to more places and more people than ever before, all at the same time while keeping it safe and secure. And as businesses deal with new ways to keep information safe and secure, they'll also be dealing with a multi-generational workforce and an influx of the Generation Y workers. And in fact, last year, there was one baby boomer for every working age person in the developed world. And in the next U.S. presidential election in 2016, the voting majority will be Gen Y. Organizations that want to recruit the best and the brightest of this generation need to provide technology that helps them reach their goals, and just as they are accustomed to from their consumer experiences. And at the same time, the workforce is diverse. You need to have technology that enables people to get work done, no matter what their comfort level is. So, let's talk about the new architecture for Exchange 2013 and some of the new features that help address these challenges. And let's start with the new architecture for Exchange 2013 itself. Now, our primary design goal for Exchange 2013 was to create a design that enabled us to use a building block solution so that we could provide a scalable solution to facilitate deployments of all sizes. And that would be from the self-hosted small organizations to the largest Exchange organization on the planet, Office 365. We wanted to achieve a solution that enabled hardware efficiency, deployment simplicity, and failure isolation. And in addition, we wanted to simplify and reduce the costs of the network layer as well. The resulting architecture that I'm about to discuss meets these goals and provides an evolution to the server roles, improvements in the network layer, and failure isolation and hardware efficiency. Now, the primary architecture changes I want to discuss today include this evolution of the server roles, as well as new technology called the Managed Store, new transport architecture in Exchange 2013, some more new technology called Managed Availability, and some new search technology we have called Search Foundation. And there's also unified messaging and voice architectural changes, which I'll discuss later in this presentation as well. So let's start with the evolution of the server roles in Exchange Server. Server roles were first introduced in Exchange 2007, and prior to the introduction of server roles, Exchange is what we would call a monolithic application. For example, in Exchange 2003, the administrator ran setup, installed Exchange, and only after manual configuration did the installed Exchange server become configured with a messaging role in the organization, such as a front-end server, a back-end server, a bridgehead server, etc. And as with all software, our design and internal architecture will be built based on the available technology at the time. And at the time we were designing Exchange 2007, a big constraint was CPU performance. Obviously, back then, multi-core processors didn't exist, and so we were largely CPU bound when multiple workloads were run on the same server. To achieve scalability given this constraint, these workloads were broken out into multiple logical units of function called server roles. As you can see, and as most of you probably know, there are 5 server roles. Inside the corporate network are the client access, hub transport, unified messaging, and mailbox server roles. And outside the corporate network, in a perimeter network, we have the edge transport server role. In Exchange 2007, the internal roles were run on separate servers. In Exchange 2010, many of the constraints around CPU performance were gone, and with the advent of faster processors and multi-core processors, multi-role became the preferred configuration for the server roles, and that is running client access, hub transport, and mailbox on the same single server. So with the CPU constraints gone, our primary design goals for Exchange 2013 became simplicity of scale, hardware optimization and efficiency, and failure isolation. And the new design takes the components found previously in the separate unified messaging, hub transport, and client access server roles and moves that functionality into the mailbox server role. And a new client access server role was created and developed to act as the connection target for clients and to proxy or redirect those connection requests to the appropriate destination. And so literally, the functionality from the unified messaging role was put into the mailbox role, and the functionality from the hub transport role was put into the mailbox role, and the legacy client access role functionality was put into the mailbox role. And a whole new client access server was developed, which I'll talk about in a moment. So now we just have 2 internal roles, client access and mailbox. Now, there is no edge transport server role in Exchange 2013. So outside the corporate network, you can still use an Exchange 2010 edge transport server, or if you're running Exchange 2000, an Exchange 2007 edge transport server as well. If that version of Edge can receive and submit messages to the transport components on an Exchange 2013 mailbox server. So you get the same functionality there. So, what is the client access server role? In Exchange 2013, the client access server role is a thin, stateless, exchange-aware proxy server that contains three components: the client access protocol stack, which would be a proxy stack for HTTP, POP, and IMAP, an SMTP proxy called the front-end transport service, and a unified messaging call router component. Being an exchange-aware proxy server means that the client access server understands the requests from each client and contains the logic to route specific protocol requests to the proper destination endpoint. It supports proxying and redirection for client protocols as well as for legacy Exchange servers. In fact, in a coexistence scenario with Exchange 2010, a single namespace that points to Exchange 2013 can be used for both Exchange 2013 and Exchange 2010 mailboxes. Now, the mailbox server, as before, is the core server role in Exchange 2013. It contains all of the components that process, render, and store Exchange data, including mailbox data, public folder data, transport data, and so forth. And as I mentioned earlier, it contains all of the services and components that were found previously in the separate client access, hub transport, and unified messaging server roles. But unlike the server roles in previous versions of Exchange, which were tightly coupled in terms of functionality, versioning, and other aspects, the client access server role and the mailbox server role in Exchange 2013 are loosely coupled in terms of functionality, versioning, and other aspects. This is because client access and mailbox have been decoupled from one another in terms of dependencies. And this decoupling has many benefits. It means, for example, the rigid upgrade requirements from previous versions are gone. And with Exchange 2013, a client access server can be upgraded independently and in any order relative to the mailbox role. It also means that recovery of client access and mailbox servers, particularly those in a database availability group, are no longer tied together as well. Now, one key principle of this new architecture is that access to a user's mailbox is always provided by the protocol stack on the mailbox server that hosts the active copy of their mailbox database. Now, this has many benefits. In Exchange 2010, session affinity to the client access server role was required for several protocols. In Exchange 2013, the client access and mailbox components reside on the same mailbox server. Because the new client access server role simply proxies the connections for a user to a specific mailbox server, session affinity is not required on the client access servers. Now, you can take these two new server roles and group them together for high availability purposes. You can add mailbox servers to a database availability group, and you can add multiple client access servers to a client access server array. Now, the DAG is very similar to what we have in Exchange 2010. It's a collection of mailbox servers that form a unit of high availability. And as with Exchange 2010, the DAG is the boundary for replication and for switchovers and failovers, and of course, DAG members can be in different sites for site resilience. And like Exchange 2010, each DAG can have a maximum of 16 mailbox servers. Now, this might surprise some of you since Exchange 2013 is supported on Windows Server 2012, and Windows Server 2012 failover clustering supports much larger clusters. We intentionally decided to keep DAGs limited to 16 members in Exchange 2013. That is a fair number of servers to manage in a single group. Now, if you have a business case where you believe you need a DAG with more than 60 members, do feel free to email that to me, and I'll get it in front of the HA team for consideration. Now, the CAS array in Exchange 2013 is different from the CAS array in Exchange 2010. In Exchange 2010, it was an RPC client access server array, which was a load-balanced endpoint for internal domain-joined Outlook clients that connected via RPC over TCP. In Exchange 2013, RPC over TCP connectivity is not allowed for Outlook clients. Only RPC over HTTP or Outlook Anywhere is allowed. Thus, there is no RPC client access server array in Exchange 2013, and the namespace that went with that array is also gone. Instead, we have what we simply call the client access server array, or CAS array for short. And the CAS array is simply a group of CAS organized in a load balance configuration. Now, Layer 7 load balancing is still supported, but since the clients no longer need session affinity at the client access server layer, again because the session for the user's mailbox exists only on the mailbox server hosting the active copy of their mailbox, Layer 7 load balancing, also known as application level session affinity, is not required. Layer 4 load balancing can be used as well. So in Exchange 2013, the CAS array is there to provide a unified namespace and authentication, and this is similar to Exchange 2010 in terms of providing a unified endpoint for client connectivity and authentication, but it is much less complex than Exchange 2010 from an administration perspective. So now let's talk about the managed store. The managed store is the name for the newly rewritten Microsoft Exchange Information Store. It's written in managed code, C#, hence the name managed store. Now it leverages the controller worker process model, thereby providing storage process isolation and faster failover, and it also includes a new database caching algorithm as well. Now, from the very beginning of Exchange Server, from 4.0 up until Exchange 2010, we had roughly the same information store process, store.exe. Of course, it evolved throughout the years as Exchange evolved, with code being added, code being removed, and being changed many times by many people over many years. And of course, as a single process, its scalability was limited, and it represented a single point of failure. So with Exchange 2013, it was really time to move on to a model that provided greater scalability and failure isolation. And the managed store provides process isolation. For example, if the administrator or the system has, if needed, the administrator or the system has the ability to terminate an individual worker process without a negative effect on other databases. Now, in this multi-process model, there's a single controller process, in this case the Microsoft.exchange.store.service.exe, and then one worker process, the store.worker.exe, for each mounted database. And when a database is mounted, a new worker process is instantiated that services only that database. When a database is dismounted, the worker process for that database is terminated. For example, if you have 40 databases mounted on the server, there will be 41 processes running for the managed store, one for each database and one for the store service process controller. Now, the store process controller is very thin and very reliable, but if it dies or is terminated, then all worker processes will terminate as well. They'll detect that the server controller process is gone, and they'll exit. And the store process controller is responsible for monitoring the health of all of the store worker processes on the server. And a forcible or unexpected termination of the store controller process causes an immediate failover of all active databases. Now, in addition to changing the store, the database caching algorithm we used in previous versions of Exchange is also gone. We used a very simple and straightforward algorithm for determining cache now. It literally saved us hundreds of thousands of lines of code over the previous algorithm. That also means that it's no longer necessary for the system to dynamically reallocate cache between databases when failover occurs, which greatly simplifies cache management. Now, the new algorithm allocates memory for database cache for store worker processes based on the amount of memory in the system. About 25% of total memory is allocated to the ESC cache. A static amount of cache is allocated to both passive and active copies. The amount of cache that's allocated to each database is based on the number of local database copies and, if configured, the value of a property called maximum active databases. With this new caching algorithm, if you add or remove database or database copies, you simply restart the controller service and it will automatically recalculate the proper cache for you. Let's talk about the transport aspects of the new architecture next. As you might imagine, given the scope of architectural changes in Exchange 2013, there is a different transport architecture as well. This new architecture has all messages coming into the organization via the client access server and provides you with the option of routing all outbound messages through CAS as well. In Exchange 2013, the transport pipeline is comprised of multiple services across both server roles. In addition, mail routing has been improved to queue messages more directly for internal recipients and to use DAGs as a delivery group in the same way Active Directory sites were used as delivery groups in previous versions. Now, the new transport architecture uses multiple services on both roles. First, there's the front-end transport service. This service runs on all client access servers and acts as a stateless proxy for all inbound and outbound external SMTP traffic for the organization. The front-end transport service doesn't inspect message content and doesn't queue any messages locally. It only communicates with the transport service on mailbox servers. On the mailbox server are the other services. There is the transport service, which is virtually identical to the hub transport server role in previous versions of Exchange. The transport service handles all SMTP mail flow for the organization. It performs message categorization and content inspection. Now, unlike previous versions of Exchange, the transport service never communicates directly with Mailbox database. That task is now handled by the Mailbox transport service, which I'll describe in a moment. The transport service routes messages between the Mailbox transport service, the transport service, and the front-end transport service. And then lastly, there is the Mailbox transport service. This service runs on all Mailbox servers and consists of two separate services, the Mailbox Transport Submission Service and the Mailbox Transport Delivery Service. Now, the delivery service receives SMTP messages from the transport service on the local mailbox server or on other mailbox servers, and it connects to the local database using Exchange RPCs to deliver the message. The Mailbox Transport Submission Service connects to the local mailbox database using RPC to retrieve messages, and it submits messages over SMTP to the transport service on the local mailbox server or again to other mailbox servers. Now, the Mailbox Transport Submission Service has access to the same routing topology information as the transport service. And like the front-end transport service, the Mailbox Transport Service also doesn't queue any messages locally. So this figure shows the relationship among the components in the Exchange transport pipeline. So messages from outside the organization enter the transport pipeline through a receive connector in the front-end transport service on a client access server, and then they are proxied and routed to the transport service on a mailbox server. Now, there are routing destinations called delivery groups. Each routing destination in Exchange 2013 has a collection of one or more transport servers that are responsible for delivering messages to that routing group. And that collection of transport servers is what we call a delivery group. A transport server could be an Exchange 2013 mailbox server, or in a coexistence environment, it can also be an Exchange 2010 server that has the hub transport server role installed. Now, when the routing destination is a mailbox database, the transport servers in the delivery group are the same version of Exchange as the mailbox database. When the routing destination is a connector or distribution group expansion server, the delivery group may contain a mixture of 2013 mailbox servers and 2010 hub transport servers. Now, basically, how the message is routed will depend on the relationship between the source transport server and the destination delivery group. If the source transport server is in the destination delivery group, then the routing destination itself is the next hop for the message. If the source transport server is outside the destination delivery group, then the message is relayed along the least cost routing path to the destination delivery group. In Exchange 2013, we've got 5 delivery groups. The first one is the routable DAG. That's a collection of 2013 mailbox servers that are members of the same DAG. The next one is the mailbox delivery group. That's a collection of Exchange servers of the same version located in the same Active Directory site. The next one is connector source servers, which is a mixed collection of Exchange 2010 hub transport servers or Exchange 2013 mailbox servers that are scoped as the source server for the same send connector. The next one is Active Directory sites, and that's used when the Active Directory site is configured as a hub site. And the last one is the server list, which is simply a collection of one or more Exchange 2010 hub transport servers or Exchange 2013 mailbox servers that are configured as distribution group expansion servers. Okay, let's talk about managed availability next. Managed availability is brand new technology inside Exchange 2013. It's the integration of built-in active monitoring and the Exchange 2013 high availability platform. Managed availability is a set of internal components that run on the client access and mailbox server role. It's designed to detect and recover from problems as soon as they occur and are discovered by the system. So with managed availability, for example, the system can make a determination on when to fail over a database based on service health. Now, historically, monitoring Exchange has relied on external applications like System Center Operations Manager, which uses rules to collect data and to perform actions based on the collected data. But after 6 years of operating a very large cloud-based version of Exchange, the Exchange engineering team has learned quite a few things. Because it's the Exchange engineering team operating services such as Exchange Online, when a service-related issue occurs, it's the engineers that are on call to deal with the issue. And the knowledge they gain from operating these services and from responding to these issues are put back into the product so that they can benefit on-premises customers as well. So managed availability is all about putting the lessons learned into native built-in monitoring inside Exchange 2013. With managed availability, internal monitoring and recovery-oriented features are tightly integrated to help prevent failures, proactively restore services, and initiate server failovers automatically or alert administrators to take action. The focus is on monitoring and managing the end-user experience rather than just server and component uptime to help keep the service continuously available. So managed availability is user-focused. It doesn't communicate root cause, it doesn't identify root cause, and it doesn't try to determine why exactly an outage happened. Managed availability is a user-focused solution that examines three key criteria. So one of those is availability. Am I able to access the service? The next one is latency. If I can access the service, what's the experience like? Is it snappy or is it slow? And errors. Am I accomplishing my task, or when I do certain actions, do I encounter any errors? The goal of managed availability is to measure the perception of the service from the user's perspective. And if there are issues that are discovered, managed availability can take corrective action to try to resolve the problem. For example, the system can make a determination on when to fail over a database based on service health. And if it can't fix a problem, it can escalate the issue to an administrator through event log notification. So because managed availability detects and recovers from problems when they occur or when they're discovered, applications like System Center Operations Manager become alerting portals rather than monitoring and recovery centers for Exchange 2013. Now, like the managed store, managed availability also uses a controller worker process model. These processes run on every Exchange 2013 server. The Exchange Health Manager service, this is a controller process that's used to manage worker processes. It's used to build, execute, and start and stop the worker process as needed. And it's also used to recover the worker process in case that process crashes, so to prevent it from being a single point of failure. And the worker process themselves, that's the process that's responsible for performing the managed availability runtime tasks. Now, managed availability includes three main components that are constantly doing work. The first component is the probe engine, which is responsible for taking measurements on the server and collecting data. The probe engine contains probes and checks, as well as a notification component. Now, probes are typically synthetic end-to-end client transactions, and checks are typically implemented as performance counters where thresholds are set to detect spikes in client failures. The key goal of the checks is to measure the actual client traffic and become aware when users are experiencing issues. The notification component is there to act on exceptions or conditions that can be detected without a large sample set. The key goal for this component is to take action immediately based on a critical event. Now, the results and the measures from the probes flow into the second component, the monitor. And monitors contain all of the business logic used by the system on what is considered healthy on the data that's collected. So similar to a pattern recognition engine, the monitor looks for the various different patterns on all the collected measurements, and then it decides whether something is considered healthy. And then lastly, there's the responder engine, which is responsible for recovery actions. So when something is unhealthy, the first action is to attempt to recover that component. And this could be a multi-stage recovery. For example, the first attempt might be to restart an application pool in IIS. The second may be to restart the IIS service itself or the offending service itself. The third attempt might be to restart the server, and maybe the fourth attempt might be to take the server offline so that it no longer accepts traffic. Now, if these recovery actions are unsuccessful, the system escalates the issue to a human through event log notifications. Okay, let me introduce you to Search Foundation next. In Exchange 2010 and in Exchange 2000 and 2003, we used a product called Microsoft Search, and we used version 2. In Exchange 2007, we used Microsoft Search version 3, and Exchange 2007 SP3 updated that to Microsoft Search 3.1, which is what we also used in Exchange 2010. Now, back in 2008, Microsoft purchased a company out of Norway called Fast, and they also had a search engine product also called Fast. Now, after purchasing Fast, which is now a wholly owned subsidiary of Microsoft, the Office Group, now the Application and Services Group, became the owners of the Fast technology. So Fast Search technology is now used across Office by both Exchange and SharePoint, and is now known by its new name, Microsoft Search Foundation. The Microsoft Search Foundation is a rich search platform that comes with significantly improved indexing and querying performance and improved search functionality. Because Search Foundation is also used by other Office products, including SharePoint 2013, it also offers greater interoperability and similar query syntax across these products as well. Now, with a single content indexing engine, this means no additional resources are needed to crawl an index mailbox database when you're using what we call in-place discovery. Both Exchange 2013 allows SharePoint 2013 to search Exchange mailbox content using a federated search API. SharePoint 2013 provides an e-discovery center to allow authorized personnel to perform e-discovery. So Microsoft Search Foundation provides a common indexing and search infrastructure to both of these products and allows you to use the same query syntax across both applications. And this ensures that the e-discovery search performed in SharePoint 2013 will return the same Exchange 2013 content as the same search performed using the built-in in-place e-discovery center in Exchange 2013 itself. Now, in-place e-discovery uses keyword query language, which is a querying syntax similar to the advanced query syntax language used by Instant Search in Microsoft Outlook and Outlook Web App. So users familiar with AQS will be able to easily construct powerful search queries in KQL to search the content indexes. Now, in previous versions of Exchange, separate Office filter packs needed to be installed on the Exchange servers for content indexing to be able to index Office attachments. Because Search Foundation supports these file types natively, as well as text files and PDF files, you no longer need to separately download and install the Office filter packs. Search Foundation can leverage iFilters, so if there are additional third-party file formats that you need to index, there is an iFilter available for the file format, you can import that into Search Foundation as well and make those files searchable as well. Now finally, Search Foundation also does include very robust error handling as well. Indexing errors are written to a retry table so that any failed task can be retried automatically by the system. Now that we've looked at the architectural changes and additions in Exchange 2013, let's have a look at some of the new features in Exchange 2013. The ones I'm going to talk about today include the Exchange Admin Center, data loss prevention, how Exchange integrates with SharePoint and Lync, modern public folders, and unified messaging. So let's start with the Exchange Admin Center. In Exchange 2003, we had one Exchange management interface, Exchange System Manager. It was graphical only, as there were no command line management tools for Exchange at the time. In Exchange 2007, we moved away from Exchange System Manager to a model that used a Microsoft Management Console snap-in. This new GUI, called the Exchange Management Console, became the replacement for Exchange System Manager. But at that time, we were also starting the journey of architecting Exchange as a solution for both on-premises deployments and cloud-based deployments. So while graphical interfaces are easy to use and provide a quick and simple way to achieve a single task, they aren't always so good at bulk operations, managing at scale, or automation and workflow, all things necessary for operating cloud-based deployments. So we introduced a new command line interface called the Exchange Management Shell, which of course was based on Windows PowerShell. Now, in moving further towards cloud, we introduced the Exchange Control Panel, a web-based management console for administrators and operators to manage on-premises and cloud-based deployments, and for end users to perform a variety of self-service management tasks. With Exchange 2013, we are further streamlining our management tools so that they are just as powerful in both on-premises and cloud-based deployments. We have dropped the MMC-based console, and we've rewritten all of the Exchange control panel, and we've basically replaced both the Exchange Management Console and the Exchange Control Panel with a new single management interface called the Exchange Admin Center, or simply EAC for short. As EAC is web-based, it's well-suited for on-premises, hybrid, and cloud-only deployments. And it can be used to perform management tasks internally or externally, or external access can be restricted or turned off if desired. So here's an annotated screenshot showing you the pieces of the Exchange Admin Center. On the left-hand side is the feature pane. This is the primary navigation area that takes you to the various features that you can configure. When you select an option from the feature pane, the tabs up at the top will change to reflect the features appropriate to the selected pane. When you select one of the tabs, the list view changes to display data and objects related to the selected tab. And once something is selected in the list view, additional information about the selected object is displayed in the Details tab. Now, one other thing that is new is this notification areas that we have up here. And this is where alerts are displayed for an administrator. For example, we've done a lot of work around making certificate management easier in Exchange 2013. One of the things that we've done is to add alerts for EAC so that an administrator can be notified when a certificate is about to expire. When a certificate reaches 30 days from its expiration date, an alert is displayed for the administrator. And if it is within 30 days or less, an alert will appear every day until the certificate is renewed. Now, the last area, two areas to point out rather, are the cross-premises navigational elements. And these enable you to seamlessly switch between managing an on-premises deployment and an Office 365 deployment without switching tools, and the Me tile and Help area, which enables administrators to switch between managing themselves and the organization without switching tools, and of course to get context-sensitive help when needed. Now, although I'm showing the EAC in Internet Explorer, we've also worked very hard to achieve cross-platform support. It's supported with Chrome 18 and later on Windows and Mac, Safari 5.1 and later on OS X, and Firefox 11 and later on Windows, OS X, and Linux platforms, and of course Internet Explorer on Windows. Now let's talk about data loss prevention. Today, it is important to help users do the right thing in a complex world of compliance. Data loss prevention, or DLP, is a new feature that helps you protect sensitive data and inform users of internal compliance policies. DLP can also help prevent users from mistakenly sending sensitive information to unauthorized people. DLP helps you identify, monitor, and protect sensitive data through deep content analysis. Exchange 2013 offers built-in DLP policies based on regulatory standards such as Personally Identifiable Information, PII, and Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards, PCI. And it's also extensible to support other policies important to your business. Additionally, the new customizable DLP policy tips can inform Outlook 2013 users about policy violations before sensitive data is sent. Now, DLP policies are simple packages that contain sets of conditions which are made up of transport rules, actions, and exceptions. Exchange gives you the control to manage compliance in order to meet your business and regulatory needs. The goal is to help you prevent accidental data loss via email by detecting sensitive data before it's sent by using built-in templates that filter mail content for PCI DSS, GLBA, PII, and other regulations. You can also import DLP policy templates from top security partners or build your own. Now, DLP is built upon Transport Rules version 3, which is what we have in Exchange 2013. While it was possible to do some of this stuff in Exchange 2010 or with Exchange 2013, with Exchange Online, it's now packaged in Exchange 2013, and with Exchange Online, it has reporting, charts, and classifications, and all of that's included right out of the box. Now, you can be comfortable getting started with DLP in Exchange because we've included all the management tools in the Exchange Admin Center that you need. Everything that you need to do things like start with a pre-configured policy template, use the full power of existing transport rule predicates and actions, test the effectiveness of policies before enforcing them, incorporate your own custom policy templates and sensitive information types, detect sensitive information in both message attachments, the body text, and subject lines. You can also add policy tips for Outlook 2013 users so that they can get a notice about messages before they send them, and you can review incident data in message tracking logs or add reporting by using a new generate incident report action as well. So let me show you some screenshots here. Here's an example of what DLP management looks like inside the Exchange Admin Center. So you would select Compliance Management, choose Data Loss Prevention, and here you can add, edit, modify, and test and enforce DLP policies. In terms of sensitive information types, Exchange 2013 comes with pre-built templates for a large selection of sensitive information types. You're seeing a variety right here: banking numbers, driver's license numbers, social security and insurance information, health information, passport, all that sort of sensitive information. And again, these are just the pre-built, built-in package templates that we have. You can import others, and you can download others from our download center and import them as well. This list is much longer than what you're seeing. You're just seeing a list that's showing you alphabetically A through J. There's a lot of stuff for UK, for the US, and other geographic regions as well. This is what DLP policy tips look like in Outlook 2013. They're very similar to mail tips in Exchange and Outlook 2010. So here the policy tip is saying that this message may contain sensitive content. Looks like it's got a credit card number in here. This is a handy credit card number to test with if you ever want to just verify credit card numbers are working. And then this is a reporting opportunity if this message looks like a false positive. There are other policy tips that you can invoke as well, including ones that allow the user to enter in a business justification to override the policy and allow the message to be delivered. And that's something that can be moderated and reported to an administrator as well. And then finally, here's an example of a report showing outbound DLP summary for the three policies: HIPAA, PCI DSS, and GLBA. And again, this is from Exchange Online, showing you the effectiveness. So for instance, looking at the HIPAA, there were 187 messages that were detected. 100 of them were override, and 5 of them were reported as false positives. Okay. I do see a couple questions inside the chat window. Let me just take a look at them real quick. So one of them: are there plans to support DLP policy tips in OWA in the future? So I can't unfortunately talk about any future plans that we might have, but as you might imagine, having policy tips supported in Outlook web app would be very useful as well. The next one is I'm getting questions about how secure Office 365 is, and at what point is email no longer secure at Outlook on the send or after it leaves the Exchange server. So from a security standpoint, when you're sending messages within an organization, whether it's an on-premise, cloud only, or a hybrid organization, there is end-to-end security. So there's security from the transmission between the client, whether that's Outlook, Outlook web app, Exchange ActiveSync, to the server. There's encryption that is used in that communication. There's also encryption that is used between servers. There's also the SSL encryption that clients will use to protect that other information. And it basically, as long as the message is within Exchange, it is secure and protected. Once it leaves your Exchange organization, at that point, though, it's an SMTP email. You certainly could use protection mechanisms like SMIME or information rights management. However, they are not bulletproof protections. Once those messages leave the organization, the recipients have the right to open them based on the permissions you give them. And once those messages are open, they can be read to anybody. They can be shared with anybody. Pictures of the screen can be taken, and so forth. Okay, now let's talk about the integration with SharePoint and Lync. Now, one of the goals for Exchange 2013, and indeed all of the Office 2013 products, including SharePoint and Lync, was to have tighter integration across the products. So to that end, we've done a lot of work in multiple product groups to make that happen. So let me talk about what we've done to integrate Exchange with SharePoint and Lync. Now, Exchange 2013 includes many features that integrate with both SharePoint 2013 and Lync 2013. Together, these products offer a suite of features that make scenarios such as enterprise e-discovery and collaboration using site mailboxes possible. Now, Exchange integrates with SharePoint and Lync in a number of ways. Now, as with Exchange 2010, we still include Lync presence and contact interaction through Outlook Web App, but we also include other features that enable new scenarios that weren't possible before. For example, as you would expect in Exchange 2013, environments with Lync Server 2013 installed, you can configure them to enable users to see presence information in Outlook Web App. Users can see their instant messaging contacts and groups in the navigation pane of Outlook Web App, respond to or initiate instant messaging sessions from Outlook Web App, and manage their instant messaging contacts and groups. Now, with Lync Server 2013 deployed in an organization with Exchange 2013, you can also configure Lync to archive instant messaging and online meeting content, such as shared presentations or documents, in the user's Exchange mailbox. Archiving Lync data in Exchange 2013 allows you to apply retention policies to it. And archived Lync content also surfaces in any e-discovery searches as well. Now, archiving of email and documents, preserving them for the duration required to meet regulatory compliance and business requirements, and the ability to search them quickly to fulfill e-discovery requests is critical in most organizations. Exchange, SharePoint, and Lync 2013 together provide integrated archiving, hold, and e-discovery functionality, allowing you to preserve important data in place across Exchange mailboxes, SharePoint documents and websites, and archived Lync content. The eDiscovery Center in SharePoint 2013 allows authorized discovery managers to perform an eDiscovery search for content across these stores, preview search results, and export the data for legal review. The question there, can you archive Lync to a public folder for manager review? No, you cannot archive Lync data to a public folder. The archiving for Lync is in a separate folder inside the user's mailbox. Now, with the explosive growth of compliance requirements both inside and outside organization, compliance has become everyone's responsibility. Neither the IT department nor the legal and compliance departments can keep tabs on all of the information that is exchanged in the ordinary course of business. Organizations need tools that enable self-service and automatic compliance whenever possible. So here's an example of the Unified eDiscovery Center, which shows you how we have this automated self-service unified compliance. So for instance, you can perform unified searches regardless of document type or location across Exchange, SharePoint, Lync, and file shares. You can also search and view content by project, legal matter, or business context. And you can provide native safety for messaging content because this is all done in hold. Data stays where it lives, in place, where it has the most relevance. Now, another point of integration between Exchange and SharePoint is a feature called site mailboxes. In many organizations, information resides in two different stores, emails in Microsoft Exchange and documents in Microsoft SharePoint, with two different interfaces to access them. Now, this has the effect of causing a disjointed user experience, and it can actually impede effective collaboration. Site mailboxes allow users to collaborate effectively by bringing together Exchange emails and SharePoint documents. For users, a site mailbox serves as a central filing cabinet, providing a place to file project emails and documents that can only be accessed and edited by site members. Site mailboxes are provisioned and managed from SharePoint 2013 and surfaced in Outlook 2013 to give users easy access to the email and documents for the projects they care about. Additionally, the same set of content can be accessed directly from the SharePoint site itself. So under the covers of a site mailbox, the content is kept where it belongs. Exchange stores the email, providing users with the same message view for email conversations that they use every day for their own mailboxes. And SharePoint stores the documents, bringing document co-authoring and versioning to the table. Exchange synchronizes just enough metadata from SharePoint to create the document view in Outlook, which contains things like the document title, last modified date, last modified author, size, and so forth. Another feature is the Unified Contact Store. That provides a consistent contact experience across Microsoft Office products. This feature enables users to store all contact information in their Exchange mailbox so that the same contact information is available globally across Lync, Exchange, Outlook, and Outlook Web App. After Lync Server 2013 is installed in an environment with Exchange 2013, and you've configured the appropriate server-to-server authentication between the two, users can initiate the migration of existing contacts from Lync Server to Exchange. And basically all they have to do is log into Lync once because the Unified Contact Store policy is enabled by default. After a user's contacts have been migrated, which happens again automatically, then the user can manage and access them from all of those areas, Lync, Outlook, Outlook Web App, and so forth. User Photos is a feature that allows you to store a high-resolution user photo in Exchange that can be accessed by client applications like Outlook, Outlook Web App, SharePoint 2013, Lync 2013, and mobile email clients. You also have the ability to store low-res photos in Active Directory as well. And users have the ability to manage their own photos using Outlook Web App, SharePoint, or Lync 2013. Sam has a question here. Can you send from the site mailbox? No, you cannot yes, you can send messages from the site mailbox. You would do that from either the Outlook perspective or you would do that from the SharePoint perspective. Okay, now let's have a look at modern public folders. Now, public folders in Microsoft Exchange have been modernized to take advantage of the existing high availability and storage technologies of the mailbox database. The public folder architecture uses specially designed mailboxes to store both the hierarchy and the public folder content. This also means that there's no longer a public folder database. Public folder replication now uses the continuous replication model. High availability for hierarchy and content mailboxes are simply provided now with a database availability group. So users connect to their home public folder mailbox first, which should be located near their primary mailbox. So we still have this concept of a public folder home mailbox, but that is so that we can quickly get the hierarchy in front of the user. Now, folder contents live in one specific mailbox for that folder. All content operations are redirected to the mailbox for that folder. Folder hierarchy changes are intercepted and written to writable copy of public folder hierarchy. And then all public folder mailboxes listen for hierarchy changes and update similar to Outlook clients. When a public folder mailbox gets full, the administrator can simply move folders to a new mailbox. And of course, public folders are completely optional. If the organization does not want to deploy them, they are not required by any clients that are supported by Exchange 2013. Now let's talk about unified messaging and some of the voice architecture and voicemail preview enhancements that we've done. The architecture of Exchange 2013 is different from what it was in Exchange 2010 and 2007. In previous versions of Exchange all of the components for unified messaging were included on the server that had the role installed. In Exchange 2013, the components are split between a client access server and the Exchange call router service, and running the Exchange call router service, and a mailbox server running the unified messaging service. All of the functionality, including the services and worker processes for unified messaging, is located on the mailbox server with the exception of that call router. And the call router is simply there to redirect calls to the router service on the mailbox server. Now, some enhancements to the speech-related services are also offered. Grammar generation and language improvements are included, and in addition, Exchange 2013 includes several enhancements to the UI and improvements for confidence and accuracy for voicemail preview. And in previous versions of Exchange, the UM server that used caller ID would only look up the identity calling through the user's Active Directory. Now we have the ability to look up caller ID through multiple areas, as I'll talk about in a minute. Now, in the new model, the client access server running the Microsoft Exchange Unified Messaging Call Router service redirects Session Initiation Protocol, SIP traffic, that's generated from an incoming call to a mailbox server. The client access server runs the call router service, which receives an incoming call and forwards it to the mailbox server. Then, a media or RTP or secure RTP channel is established. That goes from the voice over IP gateway to either an IP private branch exchange, a PBX, to the mailbox server that hosts the user's mailbox. Now, in Exchange 2013, the mailbox server has the same processes as the unified messaging server role in previous one. It runs both the Exchange unified messaging service and the worker processes. Now, in terms of voicemail preview enhancements, we include several for Outlook Web App and Outlook clients, both to increase the confidence and to increase the accuracy. Let me talk about a couple of them. One is enhanced speech recognition. So by collecting voicemail messages, again only if the Exchange customer chooses to share this information, the results of the voicemail previews can also be used to add words and phrases to the speech engine. Also, Exchange 2013 uses information more efficiently from email threads created by a user using Outlook Voice Access. And this includes information about the participants' Active Directory or personal contact information, country, city, company, things like that, and the phone number of the Outlook Voice Access user. In terms of voicemail preview confidence, the confidence score is the number assigned by the server that is directly related to the overall accuracy of the transcription. The confidence calculations that are used by have been adjusted to be more accurate and represent the actual accuracy of the transcribed message. And enhanced caller ID support. So in previous releases of Exchange a server that took a call used caller ID to try to look up the identity of the calling party. This search extended across Active Directory and the personal contacts stored in their mailbox. Now, this can be annoying because Exchange users often store contacts in other places, not just their default contact folder. They might have contacts aggregated from external social networks or contacts in unique folders that the users have created manually. Exchange 2013 now supports contact aggregation from external social networks, and it provides intelligence to link multiple contacts referring to the same person, and then it can use that data to present person-centric rather than contact-centric views. And the contacts that are aggregated from external networks are placed in a contact folder along with any additional contact folders that the users created. Then the last thing we've done is caller ID lookup is also integrated with contact aggregation so that it searches across external contacts as well. The person ID property, where present and with a non-null value, can also improve the user experience for caller ID resolution as well. Because the person ID property is the same for both caller ID for duplicate matches, can treat that as a single contact and it can more appropriately match that user. Now, of course, since we only have time to talk about so much, we don't have time to talk about some of the other great features in Exchange 2013, such as the client enhancements and new social features that we've added, the improvements to setup that we've done, the improvements around in-place archiving and retention, built-in anti-malware, recipient enhancements, the introduction of workload management, and the many storage and high availability enhancements that we have. But there are plenty of resources where we do discuss this, including on the Exchange team blog and in the Exchange server product documentation. So for more information, I would invite you to check out these other great resources. All right, and so with that, I'd like to pass the microphone back to Josh, and then we can open the floor for some questions.
All right, thanks, Scott. Yeah, great presentation. We had a lot of questions already, and I think most of them got answered, but if you have some more, now is the time to ask them. We'll leave Q&A for just about 5 minutes. I'm also going to go ahead and ask a couple survey questions in the background, but let me see. So let's go to the questions. So Scott, feel free to jump in wherever.
Sure, Larry asked to go back to the resources slide, so that's being displayed right there now. It actually looks like Brian, thank you, Brian, has pretty much handled um, all of the outstanding questions. Let's see. Yasei is talking about the front-end proxy does not do filtering, does not do spam filtering or anything. That's correct. It's basically just a proxy component that answers the SMTP communication, and once we've received the 250 OK from the data stream, we will initiate the proxy to the appropriate mailbox server at that point. So there's no content filtering or inspection or anything like that done on the client access server role. All right. Any other questions?
Anything else? And while people are thinking of questions, let me tell you, if you have an additional question that you're not able to ask today or you want to ask at another time, go ahead and send me a message and I'll make sure Scott sees it. And I wanted to also just post where you can find the deck and the video later. There's that link. And we have upcoming sessions, including one with Brian Day, who's been here answering some questions. And you can find all of our upcoming and past sessions at that link. So there's 3 quick links for you. But we'll leave up for just about 2 more minutes. Here we go. Is another question.
So Rajiv is asking how the public folder works in Exchange 2013. So we don't have public folder databases anymore. Now we have public folder mailboxes, which are somewhat similar to regular mailboxes, although there are some limitations with them. But it's basically the same principle from the end user perspective. Whether they're using Outlook or Outlook web app, they can see the folder hierarchy, they can add folders to favorites, they can create folders with appropriate permissions, they can move content in and out of folders. So the end user experience is largely the same. It's really the administrator's experience that changes as a result of the architectural changes.
Okay, great. I think we have time for just one more question if there's anything else. All right, well, that looks like it's it. So thank you, Scott, again for the great presentation, and thank you, everyone, for joining. And it's a great webcast. And again, we're looking forward to more webcasts in the future. And you can check that on the calendar, the link there. And we'll see you at the next Ignite webcast. But thanks again, Scott.